All right, we are back getting into the mind of God. Yes, it seems a little bit pretentious and maybe it's a little bit over the top, but it is becoming one of my favorite series because it gives us an opportunity to do everything that the Bible wants us to and view God as a loving father. And when we view God as a loving father, we put on those little binoculars. What is the conclusions that we can come to when we evaluate all of the information that we have about him? This time, we are going to talk about miracles. Let's get into it. All right, so miracles. Now, I don't think I need to remind everyone, but we'll just do a fast recap of some of the things that God has deemed sufficient to demonstrate his power, to demonstrate his sovereignty. He has brought in from heaven fiery chariots with horses that are on fire. He has sent down plumes of fire to burn up sacrifices. He has resurrected people from the dead. He has turned the Nile River into nothing but blood. He has parted the Red Sea so that way upwards of 1 million people could walk across it. He has stopped the earth from rotating so that way the sun would appear as if it stood still. That way the Israelites could keep killing people. He has gone and killed hundreds of thousands of people with angels or by giving supernatural support. He allowed David to kill a giant with a slingshot. He allowed David to kill a lion and a bear with his bare hands. All manner of types of miracles. Now, in this series, my goal has always been to look at what God is thinking, like what is going through his mind from whatever lens that I can. So I am going to do that right now. So if I'm looking at an ancient civilization, if I am looking at someone that doesn't have, phones and the internet and VPNs and light bulbs and sophisticated agriculture that doesn't have bananas. What am I if I'm God? How can I impress this person? How can I impress a person from the ancient world? In my mind, I think if I showed them a Zippo lighter, they would lose their mind. If I showed them a Tupperware container, they would lose it. If I gave them penicillin, it would just blow their minds out of the water, right? So, when it comes to how God decides he is going to demonstrate his existence in the ancient world, he chooses to use these extravagant, supernatural things that can't be explained in a natural way, right? An earthquake goes and it swallows up people, and then the earth just closes. I think Korah. A chariot of fire comes down and swoops up one of his prophets. He does these things that are undeniable, that are clearly a supernatural event. But he does this in an ancient world where a Zippo lighter would have sufficed. He could have done so much less. He could have just given them, like germ theory, and it would have changed their universe. So now let's move ahead into the modern era. Well, does God manifest himself in such ways now? No. As soon as we have the ability to make video recordings, God no longer thinks that he needs to show up. When God intervenes in people's lives now, all of it can be explained through naturalistic ways. There has never been a proven supernatural event ever. A proven with scientific controls. There's never been an event that we're like, well, that can't be explained, or that is 100% a sign from God. What are some of the things that people claim? Faith healing. I'll take that one because it's easy. Faith healing is a joke. And if you think that it's real, I don't know what to tell you. But there was a really interesting documentary that I watched that was someone that did not believe in... He was an atheist. And he learned how pastors were manipulating their parishioners through quote-unquote faith healing, and it was just magic tricks. And he learned how to do the moves and say the words to get people to think that he was doing faith healing. And then after, everyone was believing in him, and he actually felt really bad about doing it, wasn't even sure if he wanted to go through with it. But after he did this, during one of his sermons, he let the ball drop and said, you know what? You guys are fools. None of this is real. It's all parlor tricks, and let me show you how it's done. So that on its face is just faith healing. Get it out. None of it can be proven. What are other things that people claim are, God intervening in their lives? I remember thinking to myself, I got this certain job account and only God would have provided for it, and I didn't do anything. Only God could allow that to happen. I would get up and give talks and speeches in front of people, and I felt really nervous and my social anxiety, but I still managed to do that. But I was only able to do it through the power of God. I think you see where I'm going with this. The things that people claim that are miraculous interventions in the modern day are properly mundane. They are things that people without God's Spirit do all of the time, or occurrences that happen all of the time. So there's no reason to think that you can take a mundane claim and then just attach something supernatural to it and then call it, well, God did it. Okay, so now, in the mind of God, what do we always try and do? Well, we look at the relationship that God is purported to have with humans, and that is that of a parent and children. So, how would I illustrate this point from that perspective? The thing that I could come up with is, you have this dude that has children, or a child, and when it's a month old, he buys it a Ferrari and a mansion and the best clothes that money can buy and the best shoes that money can buy. And he takes it on an elaborate vacation across the world. And then, as the child gets older and has an ability to start thinking and asking questions, I don't know, let's just say 6 or 7 years old, and 8 or 9 years old, whatever you want to pick, he takes everything away and he abandons the child and he leaves, never to be heard from again. But he leaves a pamphlet, a little brochure that says, well, I did all of these things for you in the past. And that's the only way that he has to connect with the experience of his father. Other than that, he completely abandons the child. He has every means. He has every opportunity. He could give this child the very best life imaginable. Every resource is available to him. And yet, He chooses to demonstrate that he exists only when the child can't even comprehend what's going on. And in the pamphlet it says, well, when you were a baby, you slept in a Ferrari and you went to Italy and France and you ate at the most beautiful, pristine restaurant on Lake Como in Italy. What do we think of this father that would do all of these things, that has all of the ability to continue to support that child, yet he abandons it as soon as it can begin to think for itself? Really, really think about this one, because I think it's a real whopper. God, as soon as we had the ability to do scientific inquiries and to be able to research and collect data and to really think for ourselves, immediately stops doing miracles to actually present himself that he exists. Is that consistent with a loving father, with a omnipotent, omniscient being, deity, that wants the best for you? Or is that consistent with something that doesn't exist and was created in man's ignorance? Or B, is it consistent with something that is a cruel, horrible, petty, small-minded, like, dick? I don't know how else to say it. Like a jackass. If God manifests himself in extravagant supernatural ways when a Zippo lighter or a Tupperware container would be mind-blowing to people, and yet he gives them these grandiose signs. And then, whenever we can make Zippo lighters for ourselves, and we can have Tupperware, and we have germ theory, and we have telescopes, how does God choose to interact with us? He doesn't. He chooses to go silent. And that, to me, is a big problem. So when I get into the mind of God, and I think, okay, well, what is he thinking through this? I can't even answer it. I can't even come up with something remotely plausible if I were God, why I would do that. I can't even think of a reason. It makes no sense to think that just because we grew as a society, that means he should stop actually manifesting himself. Like in the Bible, he used to come down and talk to people. He used to make donkeys talk and angels would pop in and all of these things that were demonstrable. And then he just stopped as soon as we had an ability to evaluate whether or not any of these things actually happened. So something to think about. In the Mind of God, Part 3, Part 4. I don't know when these are going to be released, so it could be one of those. But anyway, that ends another In the Mind of God Miracle Edition. And yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. I have more of these that will be coming out very soon. I think the next one will be about war and why training people to think that people that are stronger should be able to beat up people that are weaker is really, really messed up. My name is Wally. This is ZZ, and we will see you next time.